All right, so this was where we had left in the last class, right? I talked to you about, array of characters. I talked to you about strings, what is a string constant, and what are the different ways by which I can initialize or declare a string. Okay, so continuing with this, let's move ahead. Okay, so now you know that in the previous classes, I've told you that arrays and pointers have a very strong connection, right? It means that array, basically the name of the array that I have here is nothing but a pointer variable. So I can actually, point, a pointer variable directly to the array name. I had told you in the previous classes. So continuing with that, let's try and see how we can actually initialize a pointer with a string constant. Now this is a string constant. So when you actually have inverted commas, when you have double quotes here, and when you declare any text or any statement or any string using a double, quotes here, right? This becomes a string constant. That means a null character is added, right? A null character is a special character. All of you know that this here is a null character. Okay, so moving ahead, let's see how we can declare an array. Now, all of you knew from the previous class that, just give me a moment, let me just increase the size of my pen. Okay, so in the previous class I told you that you can actually declare a string constant, something like this. So let's say I have a character and I have something, a string, and this I am not adding any number here, right? I'm not adding any number here. So what does that mean? It means that depending on the size, the compiler will automatically compute and allot spaces, right? Depending on the number of elements which are there inside my array. Okay, so it's undefined. I don't have to define the size of an array. That's allowed. So I had told you that I can write hello how are you. So this is one way of declaring a string constant, right? The same thing I can also declare it by individually, putting all these characters one by one into an array and including a null character at the end. This one I had shown you previously, right? So if you just go back to the previous screen, you can here it is. So you can either create or initialize a string constant this way, or you can do it this way, or you can do it this way. This is the way which I am doing right now. So the third way is what I am doing right now. Now, since we know that arrays and pointers have a very strong connection, right? And the first, basically the array name is nothing but a pointer, right? So another way of declaring a string, another way of actually initializing, basically the string constant is by using a pointer variable. So if I take a character pointer, so let's say PTR is my character pointer, right? I can directly initialize the string into a pointer, a character pointer. This is also allowed. Okay, the fact that this is allowed, why is this allowed? Why is this allowed? Because the name of an array is nothing but a pointer. Okay, so I had told you in the previous class that PTR actually points to the first element of an character array. So you can directly initialize a string. You can actually declare a character pointer and then directly initialize this pointer with a string constant, and this is also allowed. So I will show you exactly how we can work with these around. Okay, now let's see what's the difference between these two lines that I'm writing. Okay, here I'm writing a character. This is, what am I doing here? I have just declared a single character. Okay, I've just declared a single character. And I'm going to write another line here. Okay, so Actually, let me just write that in the second line because it's not very clear here. So I'm going to write something here. Okay, now can you tell me what will be the size for this and size for this? So what will be the size of CH and what will be the size of STR here in this example? Can anyone tell me? Anyone?
Sir, for character, the upper one for 1 byte
Yeah,
maybe.
the upper one will be 1 byte. That's very clear because yes, this is, and
But the,
this one,
the lower is the string, so
2 bytes.
absolutely 2 bytes. Why
yes, sir.
why there is 1 byte extra here? Can you tell me?
Null character.
Null
Absolutely.
character.
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect. So you've understood this. You've understood this. So this will have 2 bytes of storage. Okay, why? Because this is declared with a double quote. It is declared with a double quote. So when you declare it with a double quote, then it is taken as a string. Okay, it's taken as a string. So this is a string constant. All right, and every string has got by default a null character at the end. So if you try to find the size of this and the size of this, you will see that the size of this is 1 byte and the size of this statement, that means str, will be 2 bytes. Although it is holding only one character, that is x, the same character that is holding here, but there is an additional character which we can't see, but it is there because it marks the end of the string. And that's why this will give you 2 characters. Perfect. Now, since important thing is that since it's an array, basically you can actually write this also. I'm just writing this. So let's say I have character. I have already explained this. PTR. All right. So I can do PTR is equal to hello. How are you? Did everybody understand this statement here? Did everybody understand this? Because this is important. I had explained to you here also, but did everybody understand that this is, we can use this also here? Okay, now
Yes,
can I
sir.
do, yeah, everybody's fine with this. Now I'm going to write another line here and you have to tell me whether this is right or wrong. Okay, so I declare a character pointer. Okay, that's fine. Now what I'm going to do is, rather than, yeah, what I do is I write here, okay, with a single quotes here. Now I'm not going to write a double quote. I'm going to write a single quote and I'm going to write X here. Now, is this right? Will this be valid? Will this be valid? No, this will not be valid. Okay, this will not be valid. Now, because this is not a string. This is not a string. This is not a string. This is just a single character. This is a value of a character. This is a pointer, right? This is a pointer and this is a value of the character. So just by directly giving the pointer name, I cannot store a value in. A pointer does not store the value, but it stores the address, right? So in this example, this X is a value, it's a character, right? Because I've given it in a single quote and this is a single character. So I cannot store a single character in PTR because this is not an array. Okay, so what I can do here is I have to write star here because star PTR means the value at that particular address. Now this is valid, okay, but I cannot just write PTR is equal to X because PTR stores only the address. X is not an array, but this is a single character. But if I write a quotation mark, if I give a double quotes here, if I write double quotes here, what it means is now this is treated as a string. Now, when this is treated as a string, this is like an array because it's a character array. What are the characters which are there in this string? There will be X and there will be one null character. So there are two elements here. So I can write PTR is equal to X because now this is treated as a character array, not a single character. Did you understand? So if I put a single quote here and write PTR, this will be invalid. So, but if I write double quotes here, if I put two quotes here, this becomes a string. String is nothing but a character array with a null character at the end. Now I can straight away write ptr is equal to x, because ptr is a pointer variable which will point to the first address of an array, which is the array name. But in case this will directly, for example, here ptr is pointing to the address of the first memory location of this array. So did you understand this? This is important because we will be coming across this scenario in the future classes and programs. So I hope you understood what I explained right now. Okay, everybody is fine with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Cool.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I will just show you a little bit of usage of how to use, using pointer variable, right? So, there are different ways by which I can initialize a string, right? All of you got to know that, all of you know that. So, I can have individual characters one by one with a null character at the end. That's one way of doing it. Second way of doing it is just by using, let's say str without any defined size, right? But I need to ensure that I need to use a double quotes and write the string character here. That's one way of doing it, right? So if I have to process this, if I want to print all the characters from this particular string, how will I do it? So let's say I have declared int I, which I'm going to use it to run the for loop, right? Just giving you a rough sketch here. I'm not writing the whole program because you kind of understand. So I will start with the loop, right? So I will start the value 0, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do str, right? Str the I value, that's all. Because I have told you in the previous class that the null character evaluates to what? 0. 0 in for loop condition means false. So if I get a value 0 here, that means this condition becomes false. When it becomes false, this loop will not run, right? So I can just write stri. So the first character of the stri, probably if I'm writing hello, so first str0 will be h, 1 will be e, l will 2 will be l, 3 will be l, 4 will be o, and fifth one will be null character, which will evaluate to 0. So the loop will stop. Okay, so and then I can just give my I++, increment this, and then inside this now I can print. So what I can print this array. So I can print one by one characters. %c will give me the characters, the format specifier for printing characters, and then I can write str, right? And inside this I will write I, and I will close this, and this statement here will print hello for me here. That's simple. Now if I declare something like this, if I declare like say a pointer, okay, let's declare a pointer. So this everybody understood, so I'm just removing this part, okay, so that I can have some space. Now let's declare a pointer. So I have a character pointer ptr, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize a string to this. So I can write this ptr is equal to hello, right? The same thing, I can do it this way, and I think everybody understood this because I just explained this to you. So here is my string, but this is a pointer variable right now. Now how do I process this, or how do I print all the elements of this string? So I again,
Hello.
yes,
Sir, why do we use the asterisk sign as in between the character and the PTR?
this one,
Yeah.
this
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
this is used to declare a pointer variable. This asterisk is used. Were you absent for the class where I introduced
Yeah, sir.
pointers?
Yeah, I'm actually present on many after days today.
Okay. So you have to go back to the class lectures, the videos, and look at that, because one of the videos, it's about this entire thing. So when I am putting an asterisk here before this pointer variable, I'm telling the compiler that this ptr is not an ordinary variable, but it's a pointer variable. What's a pointer variable? A pointer variable is a variable that will not store the value, but it will store the address. Okay, so suppose a is equal to 10. What is the value of a? The value of a is 10, right? So this 10 is stored in a memory location which has got some address here, right? So when I declare any variable using star, it means that this variable ptr cannot store this value. It cannot store this value, but ptr can only store the address where a particular value is located. Okay, so you need to go through that
Okay,
lecture,
sir.
one of the lectures, just go to Google Classroom and go through the lectures. One of the lectures has got a detailed explanation on why we are doing this. All right, so what we've done here is we have declared a pointer, a character pointer, and now we know that there is a very strong relationship between array and a pointer. So that relationship we are exploiting here. I can directly initialize the string into this pointer variable. Now the question which I had was, how can I print the values of this character? So that's the question. So let's write a for loop. So let's say int I, we have this int I which I am initializing it just to process my for. So here is my for I is equal to 0. Now next is important. Now in the previous example when I discussed, I wrote stri. That means one by one these characters will keep coming until the null character reaches, right? Once we reach the null character, it will evaluate to 0 and the loop will stop. But in this case, since we are using a pointer variable, if I write ptr, right? If I write ptr, it means when I, yes, Varsha, you were saying something? You raised a hand. Okay, so it was a mistake. Okay, fine. So if I write PTR, it means that PTR is storing the address. But what I want is the value at that particular address. So I will be using star PTR. Now, when I write star PTR is a dereference operator, right? One is the address of operator. This is a dereference operator. What does star PTR do here? Now, the meaning of star PTR here and here is different. If you're not able to understand, you need to go back and go through the lecture. But star PTR will give the value at that particular address. All right, and then I'm going to close this here. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to print. So here, let me print the character. All right. And what I'm going to write here is star PTR because I want the value at a particular address underscore str. Now after this, after I get this value, that means star PTR will first point to the H, because PTR will point to the memory location where H is stored. That means the first character, the first address of this array, right? Star PTR will give the value at that particular address. So what I'll get is H. So H will get, so it will evaluate to H. That means anything other than 0, this loop will run. So it will come to this line. Here I'm going to print a character. So again, star PTR, is going to be evaluated here. The same star PTR is going to be evaluated here. That means my H is going to get printed. After H is printed, I am going to increment it. After this is printed, I'm going to increment this. This is a postfix, right? I had discussed this in the operators. In the postfix, the usage of postfix increment, what happens is, first, this value will be evaluated. That means star PTR will be substituted in this %C and H will be printed. After that, plus plus will happen. That means it will go to the next value. Okay. So when it goes to the next value, that means it will go to the next, it will start pointing at E. And here now star PTR, we will look at E. E will be, E will be evaluated here. E is not 0. So again, this loop will run. So here, what is star PTR value? Star PTR value will be E. Then after the E is printed, it will get incremented and it will go to L. So this way, this loop will run and you will have all the hello printed here. Finally, when it goes to the null character, again, this will evaluate to 0. And once it evaluates to 0, this loop will stop running. Okay. So this is the way by which you can handle a string if you are declaring it using a pointer variable directly. All right. So hopefully this is clear. Now, what you need to do right now is just understand this part of it. Okay. And this part of it. That means you can directly initialize a string into a pointer variable, just because there is when you have a string, it is nothing but a character array. Okay. And when you have an array, arrays and pointers are directly correlated. That means the name of an array is nothing but an address of the first memory location of that array. So this concept needs to be clear. Okay, so when we talk about strings, when we talk about strings, there are certain functions. I'm just going to deal with one or two functions, because once you know exactly how to do it, you can refer and look at other functions as well. So I'm going to just look at some functions. There are some standard functions available. Okay, standard functions available to operate, perform operations with strings in C++, in C, sorry, C. Okay, this is also available in C++ because C++ is 90% of C. So it's available in both C and C++. Now, the important thing is, when we were writing the program, we used to, when we write the program, we include some header file, right? So far we have been including stdio.h. Why did we include stdio.h? Because we had to use printf, right? This printf function that we used was contained inside the stdio.h. Now there are some functions which are available for operations with strings. Now these functions are not available in stdio.h. So there is another header file. So if you want to use these functions to perform some operations on the strings, you have to include the header file which contains those functions. So which is the header file which contains those functions? Sorry, spelling of intro is wrong. Okay, so the header file which basically contains these functions is called as string.h. Okay, so string.h. Right, so I'm just going to discuss two functions, and other functions you can easily figure out. So so the first function is, let's say if I want to find the length of the string. Okay, length of a string. So there is a function which is called as strlen, and this function will give you the length of the string. But how do you use it? How do you use it? You have to actually put something here in the parameter. So you have to give the string here. So for example, let's say I have char character. Let's declare it using this method. Okay, str is equal to okay, so this is my string. Now, if I want to find the length of this, I can print the length of this. So let me write a print statement. So I can write a printf statement, and I will write the length of str is equal to, so I can write length, I want it in decimal. So I will give %d, right? And then what I'm going to do, I need to give, this is a format specifier, so I need to basically give a value. So here I will be using this function. So I will use strlen. All right. And what I need to pass in this function, I need to pass the string whose length you want to find. So I pass str. Okay, that's it. So what this is going to do, this is going to calculate the length of the total number of characters, including the white space. So the space that you give is also calculated. Okay, so it will calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it will give you 16 or whatever is the length of that character. Okay, so did you understand this? You can use it. Now, another important point here, because this is a character array, so obviously this is a string, right? This is a string. Now, since this is a string, what is going to be the last character here? There's going to be a null character also at the end of it. Now, strlen function, the string length function, is not going to add this null character into the calculation. So when you find the length of the string does not include this null character. Okay, so this is for, like, you don't. So if I have written hello is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with one null character, that is actual. There are 6 number of characters in the storage, but strlen will only give you the value 5 because it will ignore this null character. I think this should be quite clear because it's nothing complex at all. So remember this one function strlen. Okay, so this strlen is a function which will calculate the length, and in order to use this function, you have to use the string
.h.
.h as the in the header file. Okay, let's discuss one more function. So another function is string copy. Okay, string copy. Now suppose I have a string which is empty. Okay, I have a string which is empty and I want to copy the contents of another string into that. So how will you do it? How will you do it? So if I don't have any function for it, what I will do is I have to run a loop and I have to take one character from one string and pass it on to another string, isn't it? So for example, if you are not able to understand what I'm trying to say, then here it is. Suppose I have a character string. Okay, suppose this is str. This is a string. Okay, let's say this is the first string, str1, and this I have something, copy me. Okay, this is my string. So if I want to copy this content into another string, right? So what do I do? So first I need to have that another string. So let's say the another string is str2, right? And I don't declare anything. I don't declaring anything. So I just have this. Now, if I don't declare anything, if I don't initialize the string, then I can't give an undefined number. That means only if I initialize this, I can make this undefined. So what I need to do is I need to give some kind of number here. So let's say I give 20. Okay, that's it. So I have a string which has got copy me in it, and the second string is empty, right? Now my objective is to take the contents of this and put it inside the second string. How will you do it? So the way to do it is, again, have a variable I, which is going to be used for my loop, right? So I'm going to write I is equal to 0. Then I'm going to take the second string, right? I'm sorry, the first string. So I'm going to write str because I need to check for the null character here. So str1, and I'm going to write I. This is going to check, it's going to read all the characters of the string until it encounters a null character. And now what I have to do is I have to take str2, right? And I have to copy str1 value into str2. Right? So when this line is basically used for copying the value of str1 into str2. So the first value of I will be 0. So your str20 is going to have the value of this. The first value of this will be C. So this way, one by one, this entire loop will run and your values will get printed. So all this contents of the first, what you call the string is going to get copied into this second. Now all this can be avoided if I use a simple function. What is that function? Right, that function is basically strcpy, right? So these two lines of code, okay, can directly be replaced by one simple function. What I have to do, I just have to write str2 comma str1. That's all. What this function will do, this function is going to take the contents of this string and put it inside this string. That's it, simple. Okay, so string copy is one way of copying the contents of a string from one string to the another, a very simple way. So you can avoid all these loops and all these complex statements here and just write a single line. Now remember that this is going to be the source and this is going to be the destination. Source is where your string is, what you want to copy, and destination is where you want to copy. So this is the way the copying works. So I hope everybody understood strlen and strcpy. Did everyone understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's very simple.
Sir, your voice not listen me, sir.
My voice is not clear. Is it not clear for everyone, or only
Sir,
you have a problem?
No,
Sir,
sir,
it's
your
clear.
Sir,
Clear.
It's clear. It's clear. Okay. So maybe you have a problem, some network issue at your end. Don't worry. If you're not able to hear me, you can go back and look at the video, and I will upload it today. And you can, whatever you missed out or you're not able to hear, you can go through it again. All right. So
sir,
that's
what you say, not anything. Sir,
Omitting.
what you say, not anything. Listen me, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
सर कुछ नहीं सुना दे रहा हमको, आप क्या बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं बोल रहे हैं सर?
Sivraj, you are
अच्छा,
having network issue.
ओके, बाकी सबको सुनाई दे रहा है?
हाँ सर,
हाँ सर, हाँ सर।
ठीक है,
Yes,
तो
sir.
Yes,
पूरा
sir.
clear है voice.
ओके,
Network issue, sir.
जिनको सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है ना, उनका नेटवर्क इशू होगा, तुम्हारे साइड पे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। यू कैन गो बैक, वीडियोस में अपलोड करूंगा तो यू कैन लुक एट दोस वीडियोस अगेन। तो जो मैं अभी बोल रहा हूँ ना वो वीडियो में आ जाएगा, सो यू कैन रेफर टू दैट वीडियो लेटर। ओके, डोंट वरी अबाउट इट। Network issues happen with everyone, but that's the reason I am, uploading the videos, so that if anyone is having a network issue, they can go back and look at the video. Okay, fine. So these are some of the functions with string. All right, now what I'm going to just discuss next is how you can read and write strings. How you can read and write strings. Okay, now I have discussed about the standard input and output streams, stdin and stdout, right? I have discussed stdin and stdout. These two things, these two streams I have discussed, right? These are standard input and output streams, and there are different functions that you can use, connected to these two streams. Okay, now there is a function called get s. Now getS function is a function to read from a string. That means you can input the characters from your keyboard into your computer, into your system, into your program. All right, now you can use getS function. The getS function is another function which is available with standard IO stream. That means this function is available with your std io.h header file, because they are also a part of your standard input output stream. Okay, now what does this getS function do? It reads the characters from the standard input stream and it stores it into a character array. Now, which is the character array here? We have not yet specified that character array, so we need to specify the character array here. All right, now the getS function, it stops reading and keeps appending, it stops reading. That means it keeps reading by character, and once it sees that there is a null character, once it stops reading, that means it comes to an end, what it does is it appends a null character to the array. Okay, so this getS function basically works very well with a string to accept the values from the user. So for example, let me just give you a simple example of how you use it. So suppose I have a character array. So let's say str, and I have declared it with some 80. All right. Now, if I want the user to enter a string and you want to store those values into str, then what you can do is you can just use gets, right? Sorry, this is incorrect. So you just use gets and write str here. That's it. What this line will do, it will, when you run this program, it will bring on that screen, it will ask for your input. So you can enter whatever you want to enter. Like you can enter a text, hello, how are you, and then press enter. So when you press enter, what happens is the entire content that you type will be stored into this str array. Somebody's mic is on. Please, can you mute it? Okay, fine. All right. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay. Okay, good. Just making
Yes,
sure. Just making sure. Okay. So getS is a function by which I can input characters from the keyboard. Like printf, printf is also another what you call function by which I can print or write onto a standard IO stream, right? So there is another function. Now printf, what the advantage with printf is that it can handle any kinds of data. It can handle an integer, it can handle a character, it can handle a pointer type, it can handle a floating point, but this gets can handle only strings. And another function which is used opposite of gets, that means gets, what it does, it reads from a input output device, but there is another function called as puts. Okay, what the puts does is it will write onto a standard input output stream. That means you can use this to print onto a screen. Okay, so this is similar to your printf. This is similar to your printf, but the problem is puts is that it works only for strings. You cannot use, excuse me, you cannot use puts for integers or, you know, for example, floating points or anything. You can do this only for strings. So gets is a function by which you can read from your keyboard, and puts is a function by which you can print it onto the screen. So if I write this 3 lines in the code, what's going to happen when I run this program? The computer, when I run it on a screen, it will ask me for my input. So if I enter hello, that hello will be taken and it will be put inside that str string. Okay, and what this puts will do is it will print the hello back onto the screen. So gets and puts are 2 functions which also are available with your stdio.h. One is used to input the characters from your standard input output device, which is gets, and the other one is used, that is puts, is used to output from your program into your standard input output device, which is your monitor. Okay, so rather than using printf, you can use puts when you're working with strings. All right, now all of you have been using this function called as scanf, right? You've been using this function called as scanf. So I'm going to introduce the scanf right now. So what is the scanf? The scanf is a function by which you can, the scanf also works first of all on your standard input output stream. Okay, so stdio.h will also have scanf. So one way you have printf, right? The printf is basically used to read and scanf is used to write. Read from a standard input output device. This is write to a standard input output device. So a standard input output device is my keyboard here, and here it is my monitor. Right. Now, what is the difference between scanf and your what you call gets? Gets works only for a string, whereas scanf works for all possible type of data types. Like printf. Printf works with all possible type of data types, and scanf works with all possible type of data types. That is the reason when you are using scanf, right? This is how you use, right? Scanf, you have to specify the format in which the data is going to be read. Okay, you have to specify the format. So whenever you use scanf, you use this, right? %d, and then you will also write another %d, isn't it? This is how you use it. And then you will specify, you know, whatever x, y, whatever you specify here, isn't it? This is how you specify in scanf. So remember one thing, scanf is similar to printf. So because scanf is versatile, it's a very generic function. That means it can handle all different kinds of data. It can handle a string, it can handle a, you know, a floating point, it can handle, you know, different kinds of data. So that's why you have to specify the format. So what is the format in which you are entering? So if you suppose have this scanf and you write %f, that means you have to enter a value which is basically, if I do this, you have to enter a value which is a floating point number. So when you enter the value from your keyboard, it should be a floating point, right? So this is how you use scanf. So you have to specify the format of data. But when you are using printf also, you have to specify the format, right? Printf also we use format specifiers. Scanf also you use format specifiers. But for gets, right? But for gets and puts, we don't need to specify the format specifier there, because gets and puts are associated with strings. Since it is a function which is associated directly with strings, you don't have to specify the format specifier. But scanf, yes, you have to specify the scanf, the format specifier, because it can handle all different kinds of data. So is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in today's class, we learned four different types of basically, four functions, four new functions. We talked about strlen, that is string length. I told you about string copy. I told you about gets and puts, and now I also brought scanf into the picture. Scanf, you've been using it. I have seen some of your programs, and you have been using scanf. But one of the questions that is asked in interviews is, why do you need to put format specifier in scanf? So the answer to that is because scanf can handle all different kinds of data. It's a very generic function which can handle all the different kinds of data. So we need to specify the kind of data that the user is trying to enter. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I think we can, I don't want to overload you with another new concept because we will start
So,
looking at storage in the next class. Yes.
sir, what the symbol that you have made before X, Y, and Z, what is it? Can you please?
Where in
So
this
it's,
in
yeah,
this slide?
scanf percentage F comma dash Z. So that dash is what I'm.
This one. This one.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, he's
Yeah.
asking for address of
Yeah. You're
application.
talking about this.
Yeah.
yeah, this one.
Yeah. This is address of. This is the address. So basically, the scanf is going to accept an address. It accepts address. It doesn't accept the value. It will accept the address. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's
sir.
like, for example, printf, we directly give the value, right? That needs to be printed. But in scanf, we have to give it an address. Understood?
Okay, understood.
Okay. So, so yeah, since you brought this question here, okay, let me give you one small example. Let me see how well you can understand since this question came up here. All right. So tell me whether this is right or wrong. Okay. I have a character array. Okay, I have an integer. I'm just checking, and float. So you have to tell me if there is a mistake in any one of those lines, okay? Okay, look at this piece of code and tell me if there's a mistake anywhere. Let's see who can get this answer right.
Sir, there is no mistake.
There is no mistake. Okay, anybody else?
Sir, in the case of float, we take int y.
In the case of float, we have y. No, float is y, right? Float is y, I've put y here. In case of
Okay, sir.
x, here is my decimal. Anybody thinks that there is a mistake?
No, sir, clear.
सर
No,
स्ट्रिंग
sir.
में वो गेट्स गेट्स होगा ना
No. See, what I've done is I have not given a address of operator here. Isn't it? This has got and this has got and I have not written address of operator here. Yes,
But
all
sir,
you can see that. Yeah, but
it's fine, sir. Like,
but
But
it's
sir,
fine.
for
But
character, it is not required.
yes, absolutely. That's what I wanted to know. Now, in this case, it is not required. Okay, it is not required. Why? Because str is an array, isn't it? Str is an array, and you
yes.
know that the name of the array holds an address. So this is not required at all. So in this third case, this is also correct because str itself is a address. Why? Because of, again, one important point. Arrays and pointers are related to each other. That means str, the name of your array is nothing but a pointer which points to the address of the first memory location of that array. So in case of strings, so when you are working with scanf and when you are trying to input a string array, you don't need to specify the AND here. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this was what I wanted to check, whether you guys, so there is no mistake. This program, whatever snippet of code which I have actually given to you is absolutely right. You don't need the ampersand operator here. Okay. Yes. Anything else? And tomorrow's class, we will start with, storage. So we will look at how, the storage, how the values are stored in memory, right? And for how long those values are kept in the memory. Because once we understand the storage, then we can understand dynamic memory allocation and all the other concepts associated with it. Okay, so tomorrow's class, we will talk about storage. So it's going to be a little bit of theoretical and conceptual class tomorrow. So I think tomorrow we have at 11 o'clock. So we will, start that tomorrow. I could have started today, but I don't want, because that's a separate thing. So I just want to start it on a clean note.